Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Columbus Chamber of Commerce's CEO Insights Series. I'm Keith Martinez, Managing Partner of the Columbus office at Plante Moran, a long-standing sponsor and partner of the CEO Insights Series. Plante Moran is, of course, a full-time, full-service CPA and business advisory firm, and locally we provide assurance, tax, wealth management, and several other consulting services. We recently wrapped up our fiscal year with all-time highs for headcount, and we continue to grow and invest in our team here locally, adding 18 new full-time staff that started last week. Very excited about their future. Today, we're also excited to welcome Monica Téllez-Fowler, President and CEO of the Central Ohio Transit Authority, to our stage here at Dawson. As a reminder, we will pick 9 random registrants from today's program to present Crimson Cup coffee and tea gift cards and coffee. Thank you to Greg and his team at Crimson Cup for this generous gift. Be sure to stick around for our closing comments from Bill Nolan this morning, and he will announce today's winners. I'd now like to welcome Justin Baker, VP Commercial Banker with First Merchants Bank, to introduce Monica. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you, Keith. I'm pleased to be with you this morning, representing First Merchants Bank, a sponsor of CEO Insights since the program's inception, and one of the many great programs that the Columbus Chamber offers. I think with myself and with our colleagues, kind of when we've always been out and discussing with small business owners, I guess a recent trend, that we've seen is, the growth in Columbus. With the inception of Intel and everything coming in to Columbus. And so one of the consistent questions that comes up is, how are we going to deal with, some of the transportation challenges that brings? So I think we're excited to kind of hear, with our speaker and kind of what it is that, Columbus is doing to help with those potential challenges. Over the years, we've had the honor of hearing from many unique and inspiring stories from leaders within our community, and that continues today with our guest, Monica Téllez-Fowler. Monica has a decade-long track record of excellence in transportation and in fiscal operations, human resources, and information technology. She joined COTA as Chief Operating Officer in March of 2023, following her tenure as Deputy CEO, Treasurer of Clark County Public Transit Benefit Area Authority, otherwise known as C-TRAN, in Vancouver, Washington, where she fully embraced innovation and collaboration. Monica also served as the Chief Financial Officer of Trinity Metro in Fort Worth, Texas, prior to joining C-TRAN. She earned a Master's of Business Administration from Texas A&M University and a Bachelor's of Business Administration from Tarleton State University, graduating as a distinguished scholar. Please join me in welcoming everyone's favorite news anchor, Colleen Marshall, and the CEO of COTA, Monica Téllez-Fowler, to our stage.
Good morning, everybody. Oh, good, the mic is working. We like that. Thanks for coming out this morning. And Monica, I'm looking forward to this conversation. One of the things Monica and I were just talking about is her background and coming to Columbus in the way I did and discovering there are no hills here. But you grew up in Texas.
I did.
So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this very competitive field that people think of, quite honestly, as being male-dominated.
Well, I grew up kind of in a disadvantaged neighborhood, really. I think I grew up in a neighborhood where, what the aspiration is, I want to get out of this neighborhood kind of thing. I was fortunate enough to have a assistant principal really encourage me to enter into a magnet school for in high school. But it was pretty far away, and it really forced me to examine what was available to me. And then he encouraged me to use public transit because I knew my family, we had one car. My mom and stepfather were in the hospitality industry, and so they were usually home very late. So getting to school was on our own kind of thing. And so I got a transit pass, and that was that. So middle school, high school, it's about an hour each way, but I did that, and that kind of opened up my eyes to other possibilities, namely college. And so I was able to attend college largely because the magnet school really helped kind of encourage and walked you through what needs to happen. And I went into accounting, finance, and did some auditing, which I loved. I really did. And I think that still helps me today in everything I do. But as I was trying to move closer, at the time I was in San Antonio, Austin area, and as I was trying to move closer back to my family, they're from Dallas-Fort Worth area, I couldn't find a job with the auditor's office. But I found a job with a local transit agency, and it felt like a good fit for me. I liked what they were doing, so I took the job. And I think it was all of a week, and I fell in love. And it reminded me and flooded me with, without transit, where would I be in my life? And so since then, I've been really passionate about what I do because I recognize what it does for people in their lives on a daily basis.
So, but you started in the transit industry in Texas. That's where all of that started for you.
I did, yes.
And obviously, you really worked your way up through the industry. So tell us about how you ended up, you were in Vancouver, Washington.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough, I worked in Denton for a while, and we built a rail line that went from downtown Denton and connected actually with DART's system in Dallas. We actually went into their region. We shared a platform. We had passes that made it seamless for passengers because passengers don't care about county lines, city lines. They don't care about that stuff. People just want to use transit systems that work. So we really had a great regional system there. Just based on that, I was asked to go over to Fort Worth where they were struggling to get their rail line up and going. And they were in the trying to do a rail line and a BRT at the same time. It was just kind of stalled and really had some, not favorable articles in the paper. And so they really revamped their team, brought me in as part of that team. And I was fortunate enough to, see that all the way through. And we had a grand opening for what was called Tex Rail in Fort Worth. It goes through downtown Fort Worth all the way to the airport. And the day after that, I left to Vancouver because I had the CEO there reach out to me and said, I'm trying to build out this BRT system in Vancouver. It's a struggle. I need somebody who has the experience, who has the knowledge, and who can get us moving on some things. And so I couldn't pass up that opportunity, especially because at the time my husband and I had always said, if there's ever an opportunity to move to the Northwest, take that opportunity. We loved it. It was beautiful and really exciting stuff. And so was able to kind of see it through to 2 BRT systems. They're on their 3rd now, so they're a little ahead of us here. But I think that's kind of what also called me here is I really like to come in, and I will say I have children who still live in Texas, so I frequent back there, and I get to go use the systems that I was a part of helping get up and built. And it's just a good feeling to see how the communities have changed, how people really utilize those systems.
Well, let's be honest about the transit system here in Columbus. I mean, we all travel. We go to DC, and we know you can get on a train, you can go anywhere. If you go to New York, they've got a subway system that really, even though it's kind of stinky, it's unparalleled for how it can move massive amounts of people on a daily basis so efficiently. I'm going to ask a question. Raise your hand if you rode a bus today.
I rode by a bus.
You rode by a bus? But this is culturally what I think you're dealing with in Columbus. We like our cars.
Yep.
We love our cars. And I traveled downtown daily for 15 years to a law office. And it would have never even occurred to me to do that by bus because I need my car. How do you come into a city like Columbus and look at these people who are, for the most part, business executives, people who have great careers, and say to them, you need mass transit?
So, I mean, I see the same thing, and I recognize that. And I come from Texas, so I'm not unfamiliar with people who love their cars. I will say that part of our challenge is when you go to DC, you brought up a beautiful example. You don't really know who you're on the train with. You're on there with business executives. You're on there with, people who, work in the transit industry, people who work at hospitals, whatever the case is. There's an array. But a lot of that has to do with the system itself and the access that it really provides. There's multiple things. So it's the access, it's the reliability, the frequency, and I'm sorry, I'm hoping I'm not leaning on this thing too much. But that's something that we're lacking here. We have a mass transit system. We move about 12 million people every year. Our ridership is up 12% from last year. But if we're being honest, we don't have a transit system that is attractive enough so that people feel like I have this option, right? Car is always going to be the option, but there should be other options that say, well, that's just as attractive, and therefore I'm going to give it a try. We won't have that. The other thing I'll remind people is, while we don't have the attractive system, we do have a huge growth happening in this region. And I think that's a part of what LinkUs really is. Issue 47, by the way. When we talk about, the transit system, you may not be using it now. You may use it in the future. You may never use it, but it still should matter to you, because ultimately, when we talk about the growth that's going to happen, do you want that many more cars on the road? Mm-hmm. And the more attractive we become, we're able to pull, do a shift mode is what they say in the transit industry. But essentially, you make it so attractive that people, just like in DC, decide, this is easier for me. I don't have to worry about parking. I don't have to worry about sitting in traffic. I don't have to worry about all the other things. I can get in, get out, and I can read on transit. I can do work on transit, whatever your choice is. But we've got to do it, or else you're going to be sitting in traffic with a lot of other cars, honestly.
I grew up in Appalachia, Southwest PA, but then I went to college in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. People there use the bus. Mm-hmm. Part of it, though, was geographic. To get into downtown Pittsburgh, it's on a triangle. You have to go across a bridge or through a tunnel. And if there's an accident in one of those tunnels, everybody gets backed up. It's terrible. And at that time, they were trying, this was 45 years ago, but they were trying to encourage people to use the bus even more. So they made parking downtown so prohibitively expensive that people kind of really became dependent, and they had an efficient bus system. So when you're talking about this new LinkUs system, is that what you're hoping to do, make people realize this is the best option? This is convenient. I mean, how are you going to market this to make people see that this is a good option?
I think quite simply it is, I don't know that, putting things in place, but I think we recognize where we have a housing shortage, we're going to have to do something with some of our properties, whether that's downtown or in other areas. We're really going to have to build up density. As you build up density, the challenge is parking. I think you make it an attractive alternative, along with, we have avid bike riders in the community. Yeah. And LinkUs will help with that as well. It's really about providing a mobility ecosystem that kind of covers all the realms, whether that's, trails, walkways just for leisure or for connecting to communities, bike paths. Transit just needs to be an attractive enough option. It may not get everyone off the road. It may not force everyone onto the bus, and that's okay. But we need to have options so that we can move people reliably and efficiently throughout our community. I also think it's about, long term, what we're thinking about is how do you get the workforce in to and from work? How do you create a community that is attractive to not just to bring people like me into the community, but to keep some of our young talent from leaving our community? That really has to do with having those different options. If we're forcing people into, if you live here, you have to buy a car, you have to be willing to pay insurance, you have to do all these things, that limits their options.
Why don't you explain to us your vision for Link Us? I know this is a high priority, that they're really pushing people to go to the ballot to support this, but what exactly will it do for the city?
I think it's going to do so much. I mean, aside from really building out a transit system that the 14th largest region in the country really deserves, I would love to be in a room where we're one of the comparisons when we talk about, when we say, oh, we travel, you've been to so-and-so and you've seen their incredible transit system. I would love for people to be saying that about Columbus, honestly, because you come to Columbus, and I think, when you don't know, you just don't know. And when I came to Columbus, I was like, wow, this is such an incredible region. We have so much stuff. We have so much innovation, but we don't have a transit system. And that's something we're lacking. And I think that Link Us can do that. I also, just kind of all of the components of Link Us, whether it's the rapid transit, it's additional microtransit on-demand service that works similar to Uber, Lyft. It is additional increased frequency, extended service hours. It is really just building out a robust system, but it's doing that all in conjunction with the mobility system we already have. So we're not walking away from what we have. It's really building upon and providing us with so much more options. And that includes, really connecting the communities through the increased bikeways, sidewalks. Those build outs in the communities allows for us to connect to the region as a whole and really kind of make a more walkable, livable, and just, for quality of life purposes, it really changes our region and kind of keeps some of the things that we love about it already.
When you say rapid transit, what does that look like?
So right now we're working on 5 corridors, and 3 of those have already been identified. It's the West Broad Corridor, and it will be quickly followed by the East Main Street Corridor, and then Northwest Corridor will follow that. Those 3 have been identified, and we have decided to put in bus rapid transit. Bus rapid transit works a lot like light rail or subway, but above ground. It functions in dedicated guideway most of the way. It has level platform boarding, so you don't, the step up, step down doesn't happen. You pay for your fares off board. Everything is pretty seamless. It works a lot like if you were in DC, but above ground here. And so that's what I mean by that. There are other alternatives to rapid transit. Bus rapid transit is the right choice for the first 3 because it allows us to really leverage, after November 5th, we're going to take those funds, we're really going to leverage them, and we're going to go to FTA, the federal government, and really kind of ask for additional funds to build out. And so because of our density, bus rapid transit was the right option for us to get going and do things really fast. And
so the platforms and the dedicated lanes, to make it an express, to make it quick, to have places where people can buy, that's a lot of infrastructure building. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of changing neighborhoods because it requires space.
It does.
We are, as much as we're kind of a spread out city, we still are limited in where those lanes can be. Are there going to be neighborhoods that are disrupted? Are there going to be challenges for you with infrastructure that maybe we aren't aware of yet?
We're working with every municipality, every township, every village within our communities. That's 17 municipalities, 8 townships, and 17 villages. All of those are part of the conversation as we're going into this. So when I say dedicated guideway, it will require some space, but I don't know that it's going to disrupt a lot of that. In areas where we're just limited with space, you'll find those are in mixed traffic lanes. But in areas where we certainly have the space and we're working and the municipality sees the benefit to it, then we're going to try to do dedicated lanes because it allows us to move a lot faster. The other piece is we're going to have traffic signal priority. It really allows us to, if traffic does start to get a little congested, if it's slowed down, we will be able to function similar to other emergency vehicles. We'll have priority at lights. The light will stay green a little longer so that we can get through it. And it really allows us to move people at a speed that is competitive with your single occupancy vehicles.
And the mindset, the culture is still going to be a challenge for you. Tell me what the typical bus rider is like on the COTA system now.
I think right now we have a lot of people who use the system because they need to. That's their option. That's their only alternative, I should say. I would say that with the Link Us, you're going to see that begin to shift. You're going to see the more competitive it becomes. But some of our people who don't ride is because, it's not frequent enough. So if I miss this bus, I have to now wait 30 minutes, or I have to wait an hour for the next bus. Well, that's not useful to a lot of people. When I talk about extended hours, I don't know how many times I have been places. If I'm out to eat, I bother the wait staff as much as possible and say, hey, how do you get to work? Let me know how you get to work. And 9 times out of 10, they will tell me they do not use COTA service because it'll get me to work, but I don't get off. We close at this time, and then by the time we finish, our nightly duties, and then I have to head out. There's no more service, or there's a service here, but it won't connect me to where my last stop is, and so it's no longer an alternative for them. So when we're able to make the changes to the system to really serve the community the way we need to, you will see more people on that service.
How much is a challenge is Intel going to be for you? It's not just getting buses out there, but getting the people from all over the region who need to be out there efficiently to Intel. Have you thought out what that's going to mean?
I think every thing we do is always very focused on job centers. We still have 2 other corridors that we have to identify, and we know, Northeast is certainly one of the ones we're thinking about. Really looking at any kind of development that goes on around the towns. And that's why it's important to have those partnerships with the different municipalities, villages, and townships. And I think that, Intel is definitely on our radar. We have some studies going on now to determine, what's the best way to handle it. And we already have a partnership with Licking County Transit. As a matter of fact, we have a executive who really grew up at COTA, came in right after high school, and kind of moved his way up. He was in charge of our operations and maintenance department before we asked him to serve at Licking County as the executive director there. And so we work very much in conjunction. And so when we talk about regionalism, when we talk about, we need to be able to provide service and not pay attention to county lines or municipality lines, he is helping us with that, certainly from that perspective and the Intel side.
Yeah, the region is sprawling, but a lot of people now, Marysville is a corridor now. I imagine that there's so much going on up there in Delaware County, one of the fastest in the region. How do you envision being much more of a regional resource for transportation?
I think that one day we'll be having that conversation. I think right now we have a system that really needs to be what this community deserves. When I can't say enough. We're the 14th largest region in the U.S., and for us not to have a transit system, it makes us less competitive as a region. It certainly create some challenges with regards to job centers and employers getting employees there, but it also makes employees frustrated. Is it worth it to me to drive all the way over there for that job? I mean, you're going to start having those challenges, and the housing is just going to be more difficult as those conversations go on. I think, I would like to say we're going to have that regionalism. I think we have some work to do in our own house first.
Were you surprised that the 14th largest city has the transportation system that we have, and that we don't have a football team? Aren't you surprised about that?
Yeah, again, I'm from Texas, so that definitely surprised me. And then I'm like, how can you not? Because you have OSU football. It's like,
that's why we don't. I think you just answered the question.
I was surprised. I was surprised about that. I was surprised that we don't have passenger rail. Something else that I know MORPC is working on. But I think that there's recognition by the leaders in this community that we have missed the mark in this area. And they're taking strides. So, the partnerships we have with the City of Columbus, with Franklin County, with MORPC, I think all of those partnerships and, clearly all of the municipalities and all of the communities within our service area, I think they all recognize the importance of this.
Yeah, in some ways it's almost too late. I mean, we don't have the infrastructure to build subways here. It's just that era is gone.
Yeah.
We can't do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, did somebody drop the ball along the way?
I wouldn't say so. So, to some extent, it's like, I don't know that it's too late because we know we're going to have the growth that we have. I think we're still in a good spot where, and we're making choices that allow us to get in and get things done very quickly. So when I say BRT for the first 3 lines, that allows us to have a BRT up and operational by the end of 2028. And then, our goal is to have East Main Corridor BRT up and running by 2029. Like the choices we're making is going to allow us to build out a system very quickly. And really within 5 years, COTA will be unrecognizable. We're talking about, by 2050, we will have 45% more service, more COTA service on the road in this community. And that's huge. So, is it too late? I don't think it is too late. I think, the alternatives, subway may be not an option, but there are other options that we can do, and we can do them quickly so that we start to see the difference, and so that communities now start to recognize Columbus as a place, not only a great community to work and live, but also it's like, wow, check out their modern transit system.
Yeah, 2050, I might be dead by then. Maybe you can speed it up a little bit. I'd like to see it if I could.
Well, I hope to be around.
Well, there's a little age gap here. I have to ask you, this is a CEO series, so let's talk a little bit about your management style. How many people work under you at COTA?
We have 1,100 people. We have 1,100 people at COTA right now. A large portion of that is, over 70% of it is frontline employees. So that includes operators, as well as our vehicle maintenance, customer service.
We hear so much about the skills gap and about the workforce challenges that a lot of the people in this room are having right now. Are you having those challenges? School districts struggling to get enough drivers. Are you having challenges too?
I think we at one point were. I think we're in a different position now. We had an opportunity to really go through our CBA, our collective bargaining agreement with our frontline employees. They're all union employees. And just remembering some of my background and where I came from and the people I grew up, I worked in houses where it was a blue collar family. And so, I don't think I go into any space and don't remember that. So when I sat down at that table with the union and with the representatives, it was really about doing what was right by our employees, recognizing that they got us through a pandemic. For many people, they had the option to work from home. Frontline employees never had that option, and they pushed through. We did lose people through attrition stuff, and we didn't backfill those positions because we ended up cutting back service, but because of so many people working from home, but for our frontline employees, it was really important for me to really demonstrate to them how important they were, not just for like right now, but knowing that we have to build out a system that is going to be completely different. When I say 45% more service, that's them. That's them providing that work. We're I'm in back. I'm supporting them. So we really had to do what was right by them. That contract has really provided us a different platform with our frontline employees. And so I don't think I walk through any of our buildings now and don't run into an operator or someone who says, hey, my cousin's looking for a job, or hey, my neighbor needs a job right now, and I told them to come. So now we have people where we're having to say, okay, we're going to be a little selective. We're going to, really look for people who have certain skill sets. We do still have to work with our employees because technology continues to change. So both for operators and vehicle maintenance, the technology is changing, but we're working with them on training, and they actually help us build out those plans, those training plans. So,
what about conversion to electric? Is that something that you see? I mean, it's certainly the push for companies that have fleets of cars now. Is that something you see COTA doing?
Actually, we already have 26 electric vehicles within our fleet. And I think we're going to keep moving towards a zero emission. We actually received a grant this summer from the FTA not too long ago. They gave us $40 million so that we could build out a pilot for hydrogen fuel cell. So we're exploring all of the options for zero emissions. That's part of our fleet transition plan. But right now we have 6 diesel vehicles left in our fleet. Everything else is CNG, which is low emissions already. We're also talking about doing renewable CNG, which further reduces any emissions. So we're making every effort to recognize that is part of where the future is for us, and it's something that we by the end of this year we'll have no more diesel fleet, and then our fleet transition says we'll be zero emissions by 2030.
Do you take the bus to work?
I do sometimes, but I will say the service is, really slow.
You should complain to someone.
I know. I wish I knew someone who could handle that for me. It's about an hour and 10 minutes for me to get from home to work.
In Gahanna?
I live in Gahanna, so from Gahanna to downtown, it's an hour and 5-10 minutes. That is, and don't miss that bus because it's 30 minutes before the next one. And so it's a challenge for me. When I do it, I have to really hustle. I have to be on it, and I'm really stressed about it. The idea behind frequent service is if I miss that bus, if 15-minute frequency, whatever, 10-minute frequency, those kinds of things. Like I missed that bus. Well, if I missed it, the longest I probably have to wait is 5 minutes for another bus.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was in Pittsburgh, I had the bus schedule down.
Yeah.
And I knew if I missed one, I'd have to wait 7 minutes. And if it's raining, my hair, Monica.
Oh, yes.
I know. You're
Yes.
stuck outside.
Yeah,
You don't
I
want to.
know.
You don't want to deal with that.
No.
So characterize your management style. Are you hands-on? Are you, with that many employees, how do you build a culture of loyalty and keep people happy?
Well, I kind of told you my background is auditing, and I love that.
That's sad, to be honest with you.
That's not the first time I've heard that.
It's real. I'm feeling bad for you. I hate numbers. That's why I'm in the job I do.
See, for me, it's not about numbers. It's the curiosity. And so no matter what's going on, I was like, oh, I want to know more. I want to understand that better. And so, and in auditing, you really have to understand something. You can't just make a blind, oh, they're clearly not doing what you need to understand, why are they not following their processes? Why are they doing this? Why did they decide to do this? So you really have to dig in deep and really understand that. So my curiosity allows me to go all over the agency, whether that's vehicle maintenance. I mean, I'm out there with the technicians, like, oh, what are you talking about the basics? Show me, And so I think they probably at first maybe thought, what is this lady doing out here with us? But I think now they really appreciate it because they know that I'm not going to make any decisions without really understanding it. I encourage my leadership team to do the same thing. And so something that I think, if I'm walking in and out of the building, I know people know me and they'll firsthand, hey, Monica, how's it going today? So they know they can chat with me, just how's the day going? They know they can say, can I tell you about something that came up that's a challenge for me? And it's really about providing that space for people. They feel empowered to make changes, right? One of the things that I said, constantly to our team was, our operators are out there. So if they can't find, if reroutes aren't working for them, if we did service changes and they don't think they have enough time in there, like, what are we doing to help them feel like they need to speak up and tell us what they need from us? So really, it's really about empowering, uplifting each other. We're all going to have challenges that, every day out there, providing service isn't an easy day. You show up late to pick a passenger up. They're not going to be happy about that. All of a sudden now I'm late because you're late. It's a stressful situation. I told you, even me getting to work is stressful. And so really it's about, having each other's back, empowering people to speak up and make change. And really just kind of, I'm because I like to be out there, because I'm curious, because I like to be involved, I really just see myself as providing service. So whether that is internally or externally, I'm a servant.
With your background in the auditing, I bet the CFO is kind of nervous to work under you.
Still is. Still is.
Yeah. I would always think, what's she doing in here? Is she looking over my shoulder?
Yeah.
Is she doing that? What kind of a challenge? School started today, and you have a responsibility, free service, especially for high school students on your buses. How much does that change your system when school starts again and all of a sudden all those students are pouring onto the buses?
Yeah, ridership certainly goes up. We know, our service really mimics the school because we know that ridership's going to be there. I think that's something that, whether it's school or anything else, we embrace. We want to provide that service. For us, ridership is good. I mean, I think we're kind of feeding into our future workforce by getting them early in high school and recognizing the benefits that it can bring. I mean, even for me, I took public transit in middle school and high school. And I don't think that, even with the mentality like, oh, I got to get out of this neighborhood, I got to, have a different life. It's like, it took me getting back into transit to recognize how important it was. And the fact of the matter is I never really had to leave my neighborhood.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
It's just maybe I've been talking too much.
might be a loose cable. That happens a lot.
Okay. Well, anyway, I think for us, we embrace the back to school. We embrace having those students on there. For me personally, I embrace it because I recognize that it gives those students other opportunities. And whether that's getting to school, whether that's an after-school job, whether it's after-school activities, whatever the case is, those individuals have opportunities that are now open to them because of public transit.
Now it's time to get personal.
I thought we already did.
No. Oh, you don't know what's coming. No, you moved here. You say you told me you have grown children. Tell us a little bit about your family life.
I have 4 children. 3 are biological, 1's adopted. 3 of my children are in Texas. 1 is in South Texas. 2 of them are in Fort Worth. And 1 of them moved here with me because he loves mom so much.
You came here from the Pacific Northwest,
I did.
a very beautiful part of the country. How did you convince your husband? Let's be honest, there are no beaches here, there are no mountains here. We all love Central Ohio.
Yeah.
But what was your first impression, and what was his first impression of this new region that you're moving him to from across the country?
Yeah, when I was offered the position in Vancouver, Washington, we were all like, oh my gosh, we get to live in the Pacific Northwest. When we heard Ohio, it was like, oh, what's in Ohio? Like, what are we going for? But I have a super supportive husband, and he, I think we call each other our venture partners. And so we had our children a little younger, but it allows us now, like everything for us is an adventure. And so we just kind of like, okay, well, this is the next part of our adventure.
Well, now that you're here, what do you like about Central Ohio? I mean, if you're saying to your friends, come and visit because...
Yeah, I think for me, the first thing was the friendliness. Like, I think this area is incredibly friendly. And coming from Texas, that was something I missed while I was in the Pacific Northwest. They're really nice people, but they're not friendly. And I think what solidified it for my husband and I when we were looking for houses, and that was not an easy thing. We had that conversation.
Yeah.
Finding a house right now is not easy. But as we were driving through looking for homes, we were coming through a neighborhood and people walking their dog or just, and they gave the little... And I thought, oh my gosh, we're home. We're home, because nowhere other than Texas have I seen that. Like the entire time I was in Washington, you didn't get a wave, I mean.
Really?
Yeah, people are nice, but they're not friendly. And it's 2 different things, really.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm happy to hear that because I have the same impression of this region. I've been here and watched the growth that we've already gone through, and it's pretty incredible. Do you think we're ready for the growth that's coming?
I think we are. I think we have to be. I think we recognize where our shortcomings are. And I think we're all in to make the changes that we have to make so that we're prepared for that, while also embracing the things we love about this region and wanting to keep it that way. So I think we're doing it in a way where we're very strategic. So we get to keep the things we love, but be able to build upon that and be prepared for the future growth.
Well, as part of this program from CEO Magazine, Ms. Hoba, where is she? Is going to ask, here we go, is going to ask a question.
Thanks, Colleen and Monica. Monica, as you've come to Columbus and you've gone around, how are you meeting different business leaders and community leaders, and what are they telling you about COTA and what they would like to see in this next evolution of the transit system and how it would improve their organizations?
I think that anybody who reaches out and says they want to meet with me, I'm open and willing to do that, and I have done that with several people in the business community, but in all sectors really, because I recognize that COTA is for everyone. So just an idea, I recently had an opportunity to meet with a business owner at Trinity, Fred Brothers, and they shared with me their, kind of gave me a tour, showed me around, and allowed me to talk to some employees. And they have a pretty large percentage. They were very intentional about where they placed their offices. They placed their offices on the bus line because they recognized that they were going to need workforce, and they were going to need to have options for their future workforce to get to and from work. And I would say that they have a pretty large percentage, and I don't know what that is exactly, but I was able to talk to quite a few of them, and they all take the bus, and that's their choice. Some of them it's a requirement, they don't have another choice, and some of them was, this is just easier for me. It's right, the line comes right in front of the office. It's easier for me. So I think when I'm out in the community, what I hear a lot is, what are you going to do to make sure that my employees can get to work and have that option to use the service?
My son takes the COTA bus. He's an attorney downtown.
Great.
And he takes the bus quite frequently. And I thought, oh, he's being, environmentally conscious. He's, no, he's cheap. He doesn't want to pay to park downtown because it's expensive.
I mean, that's a thing.
Yeah. He said, I've got school loans. So he doesn't want to pay for that monthly parking.
I have, in Washington, as we're building the second BRT line, we're out in communities doing community engagement things, giving them an idea. This is what we think we're going to do. This is where we think stations will be. We had businesses coming saying, how do I get a station in front of my business? And then I had people from the community, one woman in particular, a mother, really kind of traveled. They had two separate cars, but she said, I want to tell you, I live on the first line that was built, and I'm so excited that you guys are building a second line. But because of the BRT system that's being built out here, my husband and I were able to decide we're not going to have a second car anymore. So we got rid of the second car. We're functioning on one car. Yeah. So it allowed them to, she's like, well, now we're able to do these things with the kids because now we freed up that cash. And so it does provide options in different ways for families.
Well, there's a big vote coming up. We're almost out of time, but I know there is a big vote coming up in November that the city is really pushing for. What happens if it doesn't go through?
It can't not go through. It's not an option. Issue 47 is probably the most transformative issue that you will see on the ballot this November. It is really about transforming our region, transforming Columbus in general, but really positioning us not just as the 14th largest city, but looking like the 14th largest city within the nation.
And how about you? Give me your 5-year prediction from now. Will you still be here in Columbus, or are you going to be starting a BRT system somewhere else?
I got lots of BRT to build here, and maybe light rail in the future. We don't know. So I got lots to do here.
All right. Monica, thank you. Wasn't she great? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Monica. Your insights were invaluable. I really appreciated the ways this morning that you showed up as a woman, a business leader, a spouse, a mother. More than anything, I appreciate that you were willing to try your own system, because I think most of us as business leaders aren't willing to look internally to say, what is the experience that I have, and how could that correlate to those who, as you phrase, need the system? It's not really even a choice for most right now. And so I just wanted to take a moment to call that out and applaud that, because I think that as businessmen and women in our community, if we took more time to evaluate the services and the products that we're providing, and we had that auditor's mind or lens to apply to it as we look at it from a humanitarian standpoint, I think that it really starts to change the conversation. So good morning, I'm Amy McDermott. I'm the Manager of Business Development in Columbus for Wright Pat Credit Union. Wright Pat Credit Union continues to grow and flourish in Columbus. We started in Dayton, but we have about 100,000 members currently in this city. We're about 600,000 members total, though, and we are the largest credit union in the state of Ohio. I think some synergy that we feel to COTA this morning is that as we look to grow and expand, there is a push and pull between the desire to have this frictionless service, but then at the end of the day to keep that humanness and those touches to the feel that the service provides, right? So when I talk about frictionless, I mean that Amazon experience at 10 o'clock at night in bed, you're ordering something, and between the hours of 4 a.m. and 8 a.m., if you pay $2.99, it'll be at your doorstep the next day. And if it doesn't fit or it doesn't work, you can return it, and you never have any contact, but man, that was easy. But then we talk about services like the Ritz-Carlton when you're staying there and you have a doorman greeting you by name. They know what your order for dessert is. They know that you have a business call that needs attending to, and they make sure that you have the best possible recommendation for dinner that evening. And I think that as we're evolving and changing and looking to the next generation, I can specifically speak to credit unions. So Gen Z and Gen X are about 4 to 5% of the population that we're serving. And I think that if we don't find a way to do one or the other really well, we end up in this black hole of mediocrity. And so I think as Columbus looks to the future generally, we need more empowering leaders to take a step back and to look at the lens in the way that they serve our communities, our members, our clients, and our constituents to say, what can we do better, what needs fixed, and how are we looking towards the future? Wright Pat currently employs about 1,400 employees, and 60% of those employees are women. There are a lot of things that we can be doing differently to make sure that the next generation is included in some of these thought processes, but we're encouraged and excited to be a leader in our communities as we help to steward the next 5 to 10 years of just incredibly expansive growth. So thank you for being here with this morning with us. Thank you to the Columbus Chamber who so kindly puts this on. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Bill Nolan, the managing partner at Barnes & Thornburg, to close this event.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Colleen. Apparently, we're not counting Alum Creek as a beach.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
All right.
I stand corrected.
But yeah, as mentioned, I'm Bill Nolan. I'm the office managing partner of Barnes & Thornburg. We're a business law firm on the newly expanded and renovated space in the Huntington Center. Just a privilege to have sponsored this, and each CEO brings something a little different. I had made this comment when Tom Schmid with the zoo, when Colleen grilled him similarly. It says something really good about the region and the city when you get high caliber people like Monica coming from other places and just sort of popping in, and so obviously part of the fabric so quickly. So thank you both again. That was fantastic. So I do have the additional privilege of naming the 9 Crimson Cup gift card winners before we go. Thanks again, as always, to Crimson Cup for supporting the series in this and other ways. So the 9 winners are a pretty manageable set of names. I didn't pick them for Brian Bennett, Pam Georgiana, Justin Knight, Brandon Metzger, Jeff Polans, J.C. Spicer, Stephanie Warner, Cynthia Harris, and last but not least, Opal Brandt. So you can stop by the table on your way out and get your gift card. Congratulations. Thanks, everybody, for joining. The Columbus Chamber website, it's columbus.org/events. You can see the big menu of Columbus Chamber programs that I'm certain from personal experience that some of them will fit your business very well and be useful. So have a good day, and thanks again.